Hey there, this is Tom with the Diogenes Lamp podcast. I appreciate you listening in, and most importantly, I hope you enjoy what you hear. Before we start with today's episode, I'm going to ask you for a small favor. Believe it or not, history podcasts, especially in their early stages, tend not to be cash cows. Shocker, I know. I too was blindsided by this news. Now, I didn't go into this for the money, I think that much is obvious. But unfortunately, books, research materials, and equipment aren't free. Please, go to patreon.com/Diogenes Lamp Podcast, and for less than the price of a coffee once a month, you can become a member and get access to bonus episodes, recommended reading lists and documentaries, shout-outs, and anything else we'll offer in the future as this project grows. If you are especially broke, hey, I get it, but please, make sure to give us a 5-star review when you listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to the pod on your preferred podcast listening medium. Your support is appreciated, and more importantly, it is needed in order to keep this operation going. On that note, I hope you have a great day, and now back to the show. Hey everyone, for today's episode I had on the pod Angelo from Hearth of Hellenism. And we talked about polytheism. Specifically speaking, we talked about worshiping the ancient Greek gods. I know it's a bit of a random conversation, but this is something that we had on the to-do list for a while now, so it was nice to get it done. Your next question, I'm sure, is why would you be having a conversation about worshiping the ancient Greek gods? And that's because Angelo is a practicing polytheist, something you don't come across often, especially in the Greek Diaspora, which is overwhelmingly Greek Orthodox in religiously speaking, right? We talked about a lot of things aside from polytheism. We talked about what it means to be a Greek, to be a Hellene, to worship the ancient Greek gods, the role religion plays in the diaspora. We got back to the cultural appropriation of Hellenism, which is still ongoing. I know we had talked about that in our last episode we had with Angelo. And then we just went into a lot of different directions and a lot of different things. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. Happy holidays to everyone, and take care. Bye-bye. For starters, I guess let's just start it off with the most surface level thing that I can think of. You are a bona fide, is polytheist the correct word? I believe you don't like, especially that's not the best term to use, or?
Polytheist is fine. I think that's the pretty, neutral and recognizable word you could use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Their pagan is also one that floats around, and I don't use that term.
Is there any reason specifically you don't, or?
Well, I think the main issue is that the word pagan is tied directly to Christian polemics. So when you study late antiquity and the creation of Christianity and the formation of their identity as Christians, they had to form, like many identities. When you're trying to form your own identity, you have to have an other.
Yeah, you have to create the other.
To contrast yourself.
Textbook,
And,
yeah.
Yeah. So that for the Christians, the pagan was the other in which they contrasted themselves in order to create their identity. Now, in the Greek-speaking East, they didn't use the word pagan. The pagan is a Latin word that was used in the Latin-speaking West. So in the Greek-speaking East, they used Hellene.
Oh, that's why in the Bible it always used to say neither Hellene or Jew or Hellene or whatever.
So when the Christians are writing about Hellenes, the Greeks, they are referring to, it can be the Greeks as we think of the ancient Greeks, or just any any polytheistic group that is speaking Greek, regardless of religion. So it could be, anyone who's a Greek speaker in that time period who is like a non-Christian and non-Jew.
Right. So in a
Yeah.
nutshell, I mean, I'm probably boiling this down a little too much, but the connotation of the word pagan is not fitting.
It's just not accurate because it's not an identity. So it's not
Right.
something people
Okay.
back then walked around and said, "Oh, I'm a pagan."
It's more of a tool that was used to
It
identify an
exactly.
identity. I
So
understand where you're getting at. Yeah.
later on in history, you have revival movements and people who like reclaim the term. And so there's two pagans. I tell people there's the lowercase p pagan, which is the pagan of history and academia, of historical when you're studying those polemics, let's say between Christians and the pagans. That's the lowercase p because it's not a proper identity.
Mm-hmm.
It's a polemical tool. There's a capital P pagan, which is the modern pagan, which is a claimed identity that people who do claim their religion as paganism will use, and that is a proper identity that is used. You can find it in academic studies of religion, you study, religious studies, pagan studies, things like that. So it's become a proper identity today. Now, even though it's a proper identity today, I still reject it because, again, the long-standing polemical nature of the term, you can't really disentangle that from the Greek experience, I think. And, being that I am Greek, I'd rather just say I'm Greek. Why complicate it? If you want to know what kind, I'll say, the Zeus worshipping kind.
Right. Good point.
You
Right,
know?
right, 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 right. No, absolutely. And, there's many different types of Greeks. I mean, I think anyone who has remotely listened to my podcast knows where I stand on this stuff, and that is that, I wouldn't consider someone a Greek just because whether they're atheist or Christian or, in your case, polytheist or whatever. I just think there's more to it than that. Of course, there are people in the Greek community that see that as the end all be all, which I think is very silly because it's funny because those same people hold, and I think old Greeks hold the paragon of Hellenism as the ancient Greeks, and they weren't Christian. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
ironic, right? A bit
Yeah. So,
hypocritical.
so that is more closer to the historical reality of Greeks. Being Greek in the ancient world, it wasn't just a one size fits all. You have all these different philosophical points of view and perspectives people
Absolutely.
had. So you could have
Yeah.
been in the Platonic school of thought. You could have been a Stoic, an Epicurean. You could have been an atheist, and that was a little bit different back then than atheism today. But you could have been in different mystery initiation traditions, but you still would have those things would not really have um, like isolated people the way today in terms of like when we think of identity for Greeks, they think of Orthodoxy as the cornerstone of being Greek. That's how it was presented to me growing up, is that if you're not Orthodox, you're not really Greek. And I've always
Yeah.
found that to be a problem.
Yeah, it's definitely problematic. But you're right, that's how we were raised. You have to think too as well that the contrast, between us, and I think we talked about this in our last episode, but when that identity was kind of being created, right, it was, we were just coming out of the Ottoman Empire. And
Yeah, and I guess for the historical context, there is some sort of reason or logic because of
yeah,
the speaking population of the Orthodox group was Greek speaking, but but even that erases the Muslim speaking Greeks in Greece.
true.
So this is where the historical narratives start to break down when you look at the actual history.
Right.
And
Plus, you're thinking about nation state versus,
yeah,
it's been a
then
while
during the
since I.
nation state building. So when they're building
Right.
the
It's
nation state,
different. For example, we're Americans of
hmm
Greek ancestry. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like when you're getting into that or
yeah,
whatever. But I get it. And, some people would say that Greece is very much, and I do believe Greece is predominantly, Greek state. But again, it's the age-old question of what makes a Hellene and what not. And, he who thinks like a Hellene is a Hellene is, Socrates used to say, and Herodotus and all these ancient people would have different definitions of that, of what qualifies one as a Greek,
yeah.
right?
There's different models in in Greek thought that you can pull from and select.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be nice if we pulled from the better models than the
True.
more exclusionary models.
Right, right. Aside from it's pragmatic and there's a lot of other things you could go down as well. I mean, I don't think you should sacrifice everything at the altar of pragmatism, but there's a lot to be said about being pragmatic as well. It's the same thing, right? Whenever you see a post about Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then
Yeah.
you go in the comments section, you just see all just racist Greek people saying
Yeah.
all
And
types of shit. You're like,
this stuff is
really?
these are conversations that are very important, and it's interesting the timing that we're having this conversation because on my podcast I'm preparing to have a scholar on, and we're talking about the white nationalists and how they use
Ooh,
Greek and ancient Rome to
ooh.
justify hate. And it's
That's
a
gonna be a
great
spicy one. That's gonna be a good one and so relevant.
it's gonna be a spicy one, and it's and I'm trying to keep in mind Greeks in the conversation because again, every time we talk about like the ancient world, we're as modern people in the West, people don't take us into consideration, our points of views. They'll look at us from a distance and look at things to try to fit into their narratives without understanding our historical context and narratives of why we might be responding to something. But with your point with Yanis, the outrage that some Greeks will have, I think a lot of that is informed by internalization of Western white narratives. That if it
Yes.
wasn't for, the West and Western Philhellenism and how when they came to Greece and basically dictated how we should perceive ourselves, or we were very influenced by their ideas of who we ought to be, that we tried to mirror that and internalize it and live up to their expectations, then generations later you get those sentiments of like, oh, Yannis can't be Greek because of what? Why?
Right.
He's Nigerian ancestry. Like
Right.
he can't be Greek. He's raised Greek in Greece. He speaks the language. Like he
Right. He acts more Greek than
mannerisms and his
right. Exactly.
bedia. Let's use the word bedia here. His upbringing and education was Greek, so he is a Greek.
Yeah. He who
You know what I
thinks like a
mean?
Greek is Greek. He who speaks Greek is Greek.
Yeah.
All that
So
kind of
it's like
jazz. Yeah. I mean, I get that for sure.
yeah, so like for me, that sorts of conversation, those sorts of like controversies are so it's low IQ conversations.
Yeah, I
For
know, but that's what.
I mean, not for
That's a
conversation.
very nice way to say it.
Yeah, not I mean not for between us in the podcast, but I mean like when you go in the comment sections of like
Yeah, of
posts
course.
and you see people's comments, and I'm just like, this is so embarrassing.
I know, but you have to also keep in mind too. There's something like what's the statistic? 50% of the country can't read above 6 or 7.
Greece?
No, sin America, though. Sin
Oh, in
America.
America, yeah, like
Yeah,
no, the average reading age I think in
it's like
America is like fifth grade.
yeah, it's something like that.
It's elementary, borderline, maybe middle school, seventh.
Yeah, so I
It's
mean, we have to keep that in mind
it's
too
not high
when we
school
go.
level. It's not high school
No,
level.
no, I think it was eighth
I'm pretty
grade. You'd
sure.
have to check out the statistic, but it was something like
Yeah,
pitiful. It
yeah.
was like Lord of mercy.
In some industries in publishing, they recommend that you write at the third or fourth grade reading level.
Kyrie son. Oh
Yeah,
Lord of mercy.
just to make it accessible for everyone to read. So it broadens the accessibility for a book.
It reminds me. I studied Russian for a couple of years because why why not? College is a time to take shit that you'll never use, right? Sometimes.
What was that?
I studied Russian in 2 years in college, and college is a place where sometimes you study things that you'll never use, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
wanted to, go use and go travel the world, whatever. And I had a Russian history professor, and she said, there's a big issue in Russia. This was back in like 2013. She said, there's a big issue in Russia. Kids are not reading. No one is reading books.
Same
No one
here.
is.
No one's reading.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, it's just a social, societal decay, brain rot.
Yeah, but at the same
Um,
time, the new younger generations, their brains are being trained on, they're operating differently. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
their brains are just being developed. I think maybe I don't really read the research on this stuff, but from what I've seen that scrolls by is that like they're able to consume things quicker or jump from things faster. They're able just to process stuff fast. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so a
Yeah.
book is slow, and you have to sit down and read, and it requires
True.
attention. So it's a
As
different,
opposed to a 60-second short.
yeah. And I think my favorite, actually, this is, digression, but it's kind of related. Another thing that came out was that one of the bigger differences is the games we played growing up. Did you see that article? Where when
No.
we were growing up, we had games where if you died in the game, you restarted. There was no save points. There was no like cheat codes or whatever. Like you had
True.
to,
Mario,
yeah,
Super Mario Brothers,
yeah. So
Nintendo. Yeah.
so it trains your brain for failure and to try again and problem solve. Now your games auto save, and there's guided hints, and there's like
True.
it's lower risk and requires less problem solving. So it's more of
It's
a
funny.
guided storytelling kind of.
Yeah, it's funny you said guided, hints and stuff like that. Because for anyone that's played Half-Life, I don't know if you're familiar with the
I haven't
Half-Life.
played that one.
I think it's Jason Freeman or whatever the guy's name is, a scientist and all that. That is a game where you are wandering and you are like searching, and it's just like you said. There's not really any clues and stuff.
Yeah.
Very few.
So
Yeah, it's different. It's
I
different.
think that's a major issue, a major contributor to the way our brains are problem solving or thinking or engaging with things.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, I blame as well big tech and
Yeah.
social media and
Yeah.
algorithms and all that. I mean, what's the point of having a state if not to look at overarching, to take that and know what's best for the society and then make those mature decisions instead of selling out to social media and big tech for the sake of profits and campaign contributions.
Hmm.
But that's a whole nother
Yes.
story we could go down.
Yes. We're here
Um,
about polytheism.
yeah. Let's get back to it. So
I like how we go from, oh, so you're a polytheist, yes, and games are rotting our brains. No, not.
to big tech. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is the state of affairs in America, right? Is
I know. No, I like
unfortunately.
this. This is fun.
Yeah. No, for sure. So you're a polytheist. Do you go by Dodecath? You know what word I'm trying to say?
Like Dodecathistes or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
No,
That you
no.
worship the 12 gods.
Dodecatheism, like no, like the no. So that's
Okay.
a more of a polemical term that the Christians use.
Oh, also polemical.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's polemical. It's just, so for example, like the 12 gods, worship of the 12 gods. It's like we have more than 12 gods.
Right.
And I think that term is just for again, it's polemical because it contrasts, again, like monotheism, the one God, and they got 12
Ah,
gods,
good
and,
point.
and it's a term from the outside.
Gotcha. So, is there a point? I mean, you are a Greek American. I'm a Greek American.
Greek Cypriot American, for like
Right.
first generation.
So you were raised obviously in Greek church
I
standard
was,
stuff.
but I wasn't really. It wasn't forced on me.
So
Like
you're
most.
like the Boulder Greek way where they don't give a shit as much as opposed to the Greek
Yeah,
American way where it's every single Sunday you go to church and it's
yeah. No, I was not
non-negotiable.
there on every Sunday,
Okay.
and I didn't go to Sunday school. I think at most maybe I was put there for one morning. I was told, and that was it. Like I did it once, but
Okay.
I have no memory of Sunday school. So like my father came here as an immigrant. My mother's side is Spartan Cypriots for like three generations. So my mother's
Oh
Greek
wow.
American, and so just growing up, religion wasn't something that was uh, very. It wasn't a dominating force
Right.
so I wasn't like my father. I always use my father as an example of this. I feel like Greek people tend to fall into two categories when it comes to what they want to engage with and express when it comes to Greek identity, either the Orthodox Byzantine period, and they, love Constantinople and Hagia
Right.
Sophia, and they're all about orthodoxy and all that. And then there's the other Greek who looks at antiquity and admires that, and as
Yeah.
something to engage with and read or connect with. My father, looking back, he was of that camp.
Cool. I
Yeah.
mean, it's funny you say that because first off, yeah, I agree. But it's funny because I feel like in the Greek community, it's often treated as those are exclusive of each other. I don't think they are. I
No, they're
mean,
not. No, they're
at
not really
all. I mean,
exclusive.
I feel very much a descendant of. I know it sounds some people think crazy, but I do feel very much a descendant of an ancient Greek, probably a Helot. Realistically, both my parents from Peloponnese, so southern Peloponnese. Realistically, it's more likely I was related to an ancient Greek slave, a Lycaonian or Messenian slave enslaved by the Spartans,
Hmm.
than I was like a Spartan warrior. That's ridiculous.
Or just
Uh,
all of it.
or yeah,
And it's so far ago that it's like
yeah, of
there's so
course,
much
of
history
course.
in between. But I mean, yeah. So like
Right.
I'm from the Peloponnesos too, so I'm just like, yeah, it's probably on both sides. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah, but just
it's
like what you feel, right, in your
oh
bones, let's say.
yeah, yeah. You're like I
No,
don't
no
yeah
proof of this, but what I feel. But I also
yeah
feel, a descendant of, Byzantium, and I feel
yeah.
that legacy within me and whatnot. I mean, I don't,
We are the
by no
children of
means.
empires.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
You
So I mean,
know.
there wasn't, especially would you say there was a specific moment that you felt that this was something in other words, for me, yes, I was raised as a Greek Orthodox Christian, but based off my personal experiences in life, the good, the bad, and everything in between, this is what makes the most sense for me and my worldview in terms of, you know, my meaning in life and my destiny is and all that stuff and whatever else and what comes after, yada, 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 right? That's how I identify because it just makes sense to me. And
Yeah.
maybe that sounds crazy when you're talking about religion because it's religion and it doesn't follow the scientific, method and whatnot. But, faith is believing without knowing, right? And I believe in unknown truths. We don't have to know the answer to every single thing for you to believe in this or this, but whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole. Would you say there was a moment when you started really believing this is for me and any specific reason why?
Yeah, it took a while to get to polytheism. So, growing up, again, it starts with, I think for me, with my father instilling in me an appreciation for the ancient world. So there was a VHS we had. This is how far back we're going. We had a VHS tape of a documentary and he would put it on. And what I remember particularly that stood out from those documentaries were the reconstructions of the temples. So they did like I don't,
Ooh,
they wasn't this was before digital. They had like these were hand drawn reconstructed images, and then they would do like the transition in on film of it like being the fade in and
state of the
then
art for back
state of
then.
the art for back then in like 93. But yeah, and that was like, oh wow. And what I liked about it too was that these temple reconstructions were in full color too. So they restored the color to the temples. It wasn't
Something
just,
that's overlooked a lot. People
which is
overlook a lot.
overlooked, yes, but this is part of the whitewashing of Greek history
Yeah,
to be
literally in this case.
European. Yeah, yeah, literally, yeah. So that's a whole conversation to be
Yeah.
had. But yeah, so it was just I was like, wow, that's so beautiful. And then going to Greece as a child with my father, and for context, my for the audience, my father passed when I was young, so these memories that I have were up until the age of 8. So these were formative impressions, and we were in our village, and our village is near where Hercules completed the third labor. um,
Wow.
and so so he pointed out the mountain, and it's like that's where that, and so he always tried to point these things out. He read, he liked the ancient historians, so he was interested in the ancient stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense then. I mean, listen, it was similar for me with my father, but just like you're saying, but I mean, my
Right.
dad taught us
Yeah.
a lot of ancient stuff and stuff like that, but a lot of Roman stuff as well. I mean, simple stuff as well, just as, one time I didn't want to eat my fakes, which anyone who's not Greek, fakes is like lentil soup
Yeah.
essentially. And I remember one time he said, "You know who ate fakes?" I said, "Who?" He goes, "Constantine ate fakes." He said, because Constantine was an ex-legionary,
Mhm.
and after battle, you lose a lot of blood. Fakes has iron in it,
Iron. Yeah.
and you need, as a kid,
Yeah.
you're thinking, "Yeah, this makes sense. Constantine,
Yeah.
I eat fakes. I'm Constantine.
I
I'm a Byzantine."
I like this story because it kind of shows you an example of how we relate to our history, and this
Yeah,
contrasts very differently from how white people in Europe and America will
Yeah, I don't
use
think they have these
antiquity. They're
national
not going to tell their
myths.
children eat your lentils because Constantine ate lentils.
Right,
You know, they use
100%.
they it tends to get used in negative ways. You know how Manon Lave has been appropriated for gun rights
Right. It's
evidence. It's like
absolutely
what?
fat shit.
Like it's these are the stories that need to be kind of told because they're it's nice. It shows you how memory is used in these like actual like lived ways that are just
Yeah, I
what they
mean, and
are.
that's, I think a lot of Greeks are, like, for example, another example, this one would make you laugh. I had just turned 23 and I walked downstairs. It was right after I graduated college or whatever. And I walked downstairs and I said, hey, Baba, today I turned 23 years old. Kind of joking, like, I'm a man now,
Hmm.
which is a stupid thing to say at 23, of course, whatever. Like, I'm 23 years old. Look at me, right?
Yeah.
And he said, 23. He said, at 23, Alexander was in Persia and Mehmet had conquered Constantinople. I said, "Wah!" So you got me there. All right.
Yeah.
Case in point.
I mean, we all fail into comparison. I guess it gets
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
against
Yeah.
Alex.
Of course. Natural. What can I say? I was just 23 years old,
Yeah, but
35
that's
still haven't conquered Constantinople or been
I
to
know,
Persia.
right?
So
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
to this point. Not looking
very
good.
yeah, very Greek, very typical Greek father. Like, relax, calm yourself.
Yeah. 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 100%. 100%. So, okay. I understand your path. I will say this as well. One time when I was in Greece, I was we were at a hotel and I was waiting for my wife to come down, and I was just me being the Americanaki I am, the American tourist. I start chatting up American tourists from the Midwest, I should say. I just start talking to people because I just can't stop talking to people sometimes. So I'm talking and I start chatting up with the manager, and it's this hotel. It was in Crete, and we're overlooking. You just look outside the lobby door, and what do you see? Just endless blue and mountains and everything. And I was talking, and I forgot how we got on this subject. Oh, I told my wife's name, which is an ancient Greek name, whatever. And he goes, it makes sense that the ancient Greeks worshipped what they worshipped, he says, because when you look outside, what do you see? Right? What do you see? You see endless blue. Oh, the sea. Oh, you see the mountains. You see the sky. I mean, that's really is, Greece. And there's a lot to be said about nature and connecting with with the deity. I mean, I
Hmm.
think anyways. I mean, some people may not feel that way. I mean, nothing makes me feel more at peace or connected with, God than looking up at, the infinite the
Stars.
infinite cosmos. I
Yeah,
mean, right?
yeah, yeah,
If that doesn't, then I don't know what will,
yeah. I
the
think that's gotta
moon,
be
which
a
is
universal
giant.
experience. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. That is universal. It's just like the same
because
thing how you
everyone looks
ever.
up at the sky. So
Right. And, the love songs. Oh, no matter how far away I am, look at the skies and the moon. There's a reason for
yeah,
that, right? There is
yeah.
for sure. So I just thought that was really interesting. Let me ask you this. Do you have like a primary deity that you focus on, or is there? I want to get more into like
Um,
practice and stuff
I
like
feel like
that.
I oscillate, or I the ones that stand out the most to me, they come in sort of pairs about. So it's like between Zeus and Poseidon,
Yeah,
and so Theas and Poseidon. So them, and then Demeter, and then um, pretty much them, like those three. Yeah.
that's interesting. I mean, it's totally. I don't want the listeners to think that I know a lot about this. I mean, this is I think the first time
Yeah.
where I've seriously talked to you about this. So,
Yeah.
so
But when
like,
I say primary, it's not like they're the ones who get the only worship. So for
right,
you worship all the gods at the appropriate time. That's how I frame it. Because in these conversations, when you go online, you go to Reddit, or you talk to people who are getting interested in worshiping the gods. They'll ask, these are very common questions where they'll be like, oh, which gods do I worship? Or it's treated like a like shopping kind of, or problem solving, like which god is going to fix XYZ sort of thing, or which one do I worship now? It's like kind of like a list, or like
Hmm.
they like, I want to go, and they focus on one at a time, and then they will move on to another one, and that's, I find that a little bit, mm, you're not trying to replicate monotheism, but with just different gods every week. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for me, I tell people, I go, you worship all the gods at their appropriate time. That's why you have calendars. That's why you have ritual calendars, and you have holidays. And when it's the time, then you give the,
Can you get into that? What do you mean by you? So there's actual, like, similar to how we as Christians would have, feast days and yada
yeah, a
yada.
lot. Well, a lot of those feast days likely come from older polytheistic
Yeah, I
tradition.
mean the three fires jumping over fire with
Well,
Ayayani,
particularly
that
like
kind of
Saints
stuff.
Days. So, so we're in December. So we just had which three saints? It was Vadvada, Savas,
Andrew? No, that was
and no,
November.
Sava, Savas,
I have no
Savas.
clue. I can Google it.
There's three of
Yeah.
them. I think they're back to back. It's like Nicholas, Savas, and Vadvada, and like they're like coming like those three particular saints, and they usher in winter basically.
Oh,
But it's like they're tied to like ancient
right,
practices, and the things
right.
that we do with the things we bake at the certain time. Like there's so many things that the people do in terms of practices that are, you know, patterns and models and things that we've always done for centuries. So like these things are layered. They're layered on top of each other.
Can you remember that picture you sent me about the altar?
Was it the church with the iconostasis?
Yeah, the
And then there was a
iconostases.
Mithraeum.
Then there was an ancient Greek one that
It
was
was like
almost
Mithraeum,
identical.
yeah. So like, I don't know how connected these are, but it's just like, oh wow, that's very similar. There was like this image. So like every Greek who goes to a Greek church, there's the iconostasis that separates the altar from the like
Right.
the people, and there's
The
like
wall of
the seven
icons.
arches. There's the main
Right.
arch where the priest comes out and the doorway, but then there's like seven like arches altogether or whatever.
Right.
And then I found this image of of an ancient Mithraeum, which is underground temple to Mithras, and they had the seven like gates, I think they were called, and the image was
I will say it looked almost
exactly
identical.
it
Yeah, it
was
looked
like, but it
almost
was like on the
identical.
floor. It was on the floor though, so this was like it was
Right.
drawn on the floor, and I was like, wow, this what is
Yeah.
it like? But then the interesting thing is that the iconostasis didn't really uh, wasn't really introduced into churches until much later into the Byzantine period, I think during Ottoman occupation, because they wanted to keep the priest activities more private if someone were to come into the church during services that were.
Really?
Yeah, so this is the thing, that I was like, wait a minute. So like this is something that wasn't like either. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this particular thing, but I don't know if this is something that maybe existed regionally, and maybe some churches had them for centuries, and then it didn't really widely get adopted until a certain period. But from what I remember, I read or heard in other material, it was that this was something that really became a fixture in churches at a particular period during Ottoman occupation. I think the theory is to keep the secrecy and the privacy of the priest's activities during service, if somebody were to like come in who wasn't meant to see it. But then if that's the case, like how does it mirror this ancient Mithraic symbolism of these seven gates? What is innate in the religious grammar, so to speak, or the way of doing things that it would pick up on this thing going back so long ago architecturally?
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was striking. I'll have to post a picture on the
Yeah,
Instagram or
we'll post a
something
picture of it. So
because it's really is striking. It's almost identical. When I saw it, I was
it
like, "Oh my
is. It freaked
gosh."
me out. I was like, "That's crazy." So, when we
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about these religious things, so like, you asked me about like how I came to this, and I started speaking about my father and my exposure to antiquity. That didn't, that didn't mean then I, at like 5, 6, 7 became a polytheist.
Hmm.
It laid the seeds for appreciation that would later grow into adulthood. Um, I was just always very inquisitive. I want to understand things, and I always give a lot of credit to the History Channel growing up, because back when I had the History Channel, it was actually good.
Yeah, it was actual
They
history back then.
good documentaries. They had, like, my favorite things to watch were banned from the Bible,
Yeah.
things like that, like the Apocrypha or the Gnostic texts. And it's like when
Hmm.
you're a child and or you're young at that age, and you find out, like, wait a minute, there's things not in the Bible. Like, why would
Right.
you, like, and you find out there's this entire, like, history of things that you're not taught, because these are the documents of the losing communities that didn't win out in the end. And so how we think of orthodoxy as the correct religion wasn't always the case. When you study early Christianity, there were the proto-Orthodox, which are the groups that later became the Orthodox, traditions. But then you had all the other communities that had different gospels and different teachings, and they were all fighting each other. Like, there was a lot of fights, and you go, wow. And then you just start exploring that. And for me, I worked my way backwards to polytheism.
Interesting. Interesting. I mean, it's so, again, all this is over my head. It's so, I mean, just hearing from you is,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
it's all hearing this for the first time,
Uh-huh.
frankly, right? I've never talked to other,
Yeah.
polytheist. Um, so, I mean, like, do you practice, I don't know. And again, at any point, like I've told you before, you don't feel
Yeah,
comfortable with
no,
this,
dude, this
like
is this is all good.
on a daily ritual, like I have my conversation with God, like, are you communicating with your deities, like, throughout your day? I mean, in other words, is this something to more so bring meaning to your life? Like, do you literally believe that these gods existed or exist? Um, Yada yada yada. I guess.
Yeah, we're going to theological territory, kind of,
Yeah, a
which
bit.
which is a little difficult. The
It's
theology is a
very
little
tough. So that's
it's
what I'm saying. We
tough.
do
It's
don't
tough.
have to. And
Then you go into conversations on, like, Platonic philosophy and theology and stuff like that, which is,
I
I
mean, does this
so
bring you peace? I guess. Is
yes,
that the
it
main
it
purpose
does.
of
It
your
does bring
religion?
it does bring me peace. At the height of my involvement, I was initiated into a tradition, and in at the height of that experience of being initiated and taught, I had lots of dreams. I'm a very active dreamer, so might sometimes, get messages in dreams, things like that. In my dreams during that period of engagement with the tradition I was in, my dreams were crazy wild, with, like, um, things that I would have to, like, talk to my teacher and get, like, an exegesis on it, like, to interpret it. Sometimes
Hmm.
they would feature figures that either were maybe the gods or representatives of the gods. There's a whole dream that I can go into. Maybe, I don't know, later. I don't know. It's a long story.
Yeah, don't worry. I mean, you don't have
But
to.
we can probably save that, because it ties into my perceptions and how I've grown in relationship to Christianity, and, like, the history and religion, and not being polemic against the two sides. So, like, the two sides I spoke about when we talk about antiquity, ancient Greece, polytheism, and then Byzantine Orthodoxy. Like, people want to box these things off and label them as two separate things. And over the time, I've grown to appreciate the continuity and the changes and the layering of these things. I think it's fun. It's like a big box. As Greeks, we have a big treasure chest of lots of things, and we get to poke around and play
For
with
sure.
what we like. You know what I
For
mean? And
sure.
I've learned to appreciate all of it, instead of being like, oh, that's Byzantine. I don't want to deal with that. No, all of it is ours to play with and
Right.
enjoy
100%. I'm
and be
finding that
creative
very
with.
much so with modern Greek history now, even. Just so.
Yeah, and be creative with it. Like, have fun with it. So, like, another tangent, but, like, AI, for example, you can make images, and I
Mhm.
love making images of, like, the gods in a Byzantine icon style.
Oh man.
I love it because it shows you an alternative. It first of all shows that you can it pictures this subject, the gods, in a medium of art which we're used to, because it's a predominant art style for our way of doing religion within Orthodoxy. That particular style, but that style, originates in Egypt with the funerary portraits. So if you go to the museums, there's the funerary portraits from sarcophaguses or sarcophagi. I think that's how you say it.
Plural,
Um,
yeah.
that when somebody would get their portrait done, so it would be put on their sarcophagus. And these are very realistic portraits. And if you look at them, they're like the predecessor, the prototype for what would later become Byzantine like iconography.
That's
You know,
wild.
it is. It's crazy because like with the history of Egypt, people with the Arab conquests. I think about the sixth century. Um, People left out, let's say Alexandria and stuff like that. And they went to Constantinople, and they brought that particular art style with them to Constantinople, and that becomes a very predominant modality, I guess. But also with the theology in Christianity, they don't do um, statues. Every Greek knows that we don't do statues in the
Right.
churches. We do flat icons, flat images. So
It's
that
funny
art
too.
style became, I guess, you know.
It's funny you mentioned Egypt. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
It's
go ahead.
funny you mentioned Egypt too, with such a big part of Byzantine culture and legacy and whatnot. Because Porphyry also came from Egypt, right? And it's like
Um, Porphyry. I thought Porphyry came from Lebanon.
I thought Egypt that was understood. Let me look it up.
Plotinus
Wait a
was
sec.
Egyptian. Plotinus was Egyptian.
Uh, I don't know. It
Yeah,
says here
I might be
single
wrong.
quarry mons, porphyrites in Egypt's eastern desert used for Roman's imperial purple artifacts. Blah blah, blah like green porphyry.
Oh, you mean the
Birthplace. Oh,
philosopher or
no, no,
the?
no, no. The Rock.
Oh, the Rock. Yeah, because I was thinking. I thought you were talking about the philosopher Porphyry because he got the
Oh,
name
that's what.
because he's
I didn't
named
know there was a
after
philosopher
the
Porphyry.
yeah the purple marble.
The purple mark. Yeah, that's why they used
Yeah,
to say someone who's born in the royal palace
yeah.
In Constantinople is almost called Istanbul. Oh my gosh, in Constantinople is born in the purple,
Yes, correct.
right?
Yeah,
In other words, they were royal.
yeah,
You know, which
yeah.
The last Constantine was not born in the purple, or he wasn't crowned. Actually, he was.
Uh-huh.
He might have not been born in the purple either, but he was crowned in Peloponnese, so he was crowned in Mistra, which also gives on to the prophecy stuff of the fall of Constantinople. Anyways, back to what we're talking about. Do you use like when you do rituals? Do you use like wine, incense, and stuff?
Oh yeah, back to that.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah,
Sorry.
we have I was taught, I have a calendar that I could use if I wanted to be more rigorous, and
Hmm.
but I'm a bit lazy when it comes to those things. So typically what I try to do at the bare minimum is every day I light a candle on my altar to Hestia, and that to kind of start the day and say a quick prayer, and that's the bare minimum basic sort of thing I'll do. If it's if I want to give thanks for something, I will pour a libation of wine and just
Wow.
give thanks for if something good happened. If I got a promotion recently, yay
Right.
promotion. So I make
Congrats.
sure to give thanks and to give a libation for that good that came.
That's interesting. I
Yeah.
mean, it is. You've gone to Greece before, and you've seen at churches where people give the gold body parts and whatever
Yeah,
else.
the
That's for
Dama.
people when they're sick. Yeah, that's when their people are
Yeah,
sick and stuff and whatnot. But
that's a great example of something from antiquity that's just we've held on to. So
yeah,
people would bring it wasn't made out of metal. It was made out of I think either stone or ceramics or something like that, and it would be the body part. So if somebody went to Asclepius for healing and they were healed, then they would give like this. It's the same practice basically. It's
right. Except
it's the
now they
same
do it in
thing.
the little gold things like
Yeah, and
the
they
leg,
gave
arm,
they
heart,
put
or
it,
whatever.
like on the icon of the Panaya or something. It's
Yeah,
it's it's the same religious grammar. It's just a different context.
yeah. I mean, there's definitely appears to be some continuation
Yeah, because
follow
it's just
through.
what people do. You know,
Right.
it's this is
Part
what
of
they
it's
do.
almost just pragmatic as well. Like, what did you
Yeah,
expect it to be a total
it's
break?
an it's
You
a
know what
it's
I
a
mean? Like,
it's a
it's
perspective.
not practical.
It's just how people see the world and their responsibility into deity, or their
Right.
relationship to the person's relationship to deity didn't really change all that much, I would say, to in large ways. You know, you give a, you know, an offering, or you give thanks, and this is how the people did it, and they continue to do it, and it just evolved, it changed. So you have like that little piece of metal with like an eye or an arm. What's
Right.
changed? The material. It's made on tin, gold, whatever it is. You know, that's
Right.
just,
Good
it's easier
point.
to do it than, you know, trying to make, you know, go to a potter, I guess, or chisel out a stone.
Right. It's true. Yeah. It's the modern day version of it. No,
Yeah.
totally. Totally. Do you, are you part of, I mean, just speaking on your community in general, are you part of a larger community? Do you have a church? Do you have, other friends? Are you, is it kind of a lonely, not
I'm
lonely, but you know what I mean?
I'm a bit more isolated now. I did have a community at one point, but that community is I would say is inactive. There's two I
Gotcha.
was part of two different communities. One of them I left, and then the other one kind of like dwindled out for whatever reason. So I'm kind of on my own. I have one other like close friend that is also a polytheist that it's just like me and him that will talk.
Are
So,
there more in Greece?
oh, there's a lot more in Greece. There's a lot in Greece, but I
There's a whole
only,
documentary on Greece. It's actually a Vice documentary that I don't know if you've ever seen it,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
I've seen that one. Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot more over there. I don't engage with a lot of them in Greece because things get, um, it's complicated in Greece.
There's so the name of the community I think is like
It's the,
National. Well,
uh,
go ahead. I don't know if you know the
no,
name,
you go ahead. Sorry.
but I was gonna say it's like a national whatever. And if I remember correctly from the documentary, they start off by saying like we are not nationalists in that sense, in like the Christiavi, the Golden Dawn kind of sense.
Hmm.
To my understanding, anyways, if I have to rewatch the documentary, but I mean, but like there was some like old lady that was like, and she was crying while saying that she goes, and it was her and her daughter, and they were preparing
Yeah, I
things.
remember. I know
You know
who
what I'm
you're talking
referring to, and
about.
she goes, it's amazing to me that for the first time in 2,000 years, the place where we are, and again, once again, we're worshiping Zeus. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like, wow, like that is pretty
yeah.
profound. Like,
It is. It is. Yeah. I think my conflict with Greeks, being a diasporic Greek, and that I went and got my, you know, education in history, is that I come from things from a bigger historical, I think, perspective than most people in Greece do. So that's where my conflict arises.
what do you mean by that? Like a historical perspective, like just your
Again,
upbringing,
there's a
or
lot of polemics in Greece when it comes to identity, for being like a Greek identity. And I've noticed, you know, it's the polemics between the Christians and the dominance of Christianity in Greece, and trying to disentangle Christianity as an essential quality of being Greek. And the argument that, you know, this is the real true, you know, polytheism is the real true like ancestral religion for Greeks, and what we are doing is the ancestral tradition.
right?
Like
That's the vibe I got
these
from them
the
when I watched
rhetoric.
the documentary.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's the rhetoric. And
undoubtedly.
yeah, so when I came into that movement and stuff like that, you know, I was just starting my master's in history. So you know, by the time I finished my master's in history, I was able to kind of look at narratives and rhetorics a little bit more critically, and going, what are we doing? What are you talking about? Like, you know what I
What's the
mean?
point
Like,
of this?
you know, it's not a direct continuity from, you know, the ancient world to what you're doing today. You're renegotiating history, and it's a revival. So you know, there's different terms. There's reconstruction, there's revival. There's a lot of polytheists and pagans who want to do reconstruction. And they want to try to replicate everything, that they can when it comes to religion, as much as possible. And they're not doing that in Greece. I want to make a point of that they're not reconstructionists. They're not trying to replicate. They're not trying to do a photographic copy. It's a revival, and that means to bring this practice into the open, into the public sphere, so that people can re-engage with it and find it.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing public rituals out in the public and, stuff like that.
There's different groups, too. There's a lot of different groups. They're not all connected in like, they're not like in communion, we'll say, to use that word. There's a lot of, there's just a lot of drama with Greek people overall, because everyone wants to be the chief and nobody wants to follow.
Yeah,
everyone wants to be the boss.
Right.
And so when you have that mentality of like, I want to be the boss, listen to me, and you have a very niche, small community of people who want to do polytheism and engage in these sorts of conversations, people will have different points of views, and it leads to fracturing and new splinter groups. So that's kind of like the history of that from the 90s, when this stuff getting more popular up until till today. And I never was interested in that. I thought that was just a little too messy, and it's hard to really try to explain to the Greeks in Greece historical nuance.
Right. Well, that's always the most difficult thing. The nuance is dead. I don't know if you got the memo or not, but
nuance is dead, and I love nuance.
Yeah, I know. Nuance is dead, and we need it because
you need nuance, because nuance is important, because people's narratives are not as clean cut as they want it to be.
Of course,
so it's never like that. And
these things require a fine comb, not a pair of scissors or an axe.
It goes into what I was saying about appreciating the layering of our history and not trying to cut out bits and pieces because you don't like that for whatever reason it is. You have to appreciate it all and be inspired by all of it however you want. Be creative with all of it.
Right. Let me ask you this. Please don't be offended at this at all, okay? Do you ever get the question that people don't believe that you're an actual, like, polytheist, that you're doing this, like, cosplaying or something like that? Like, do you ever get that?
No, I don't. I mean, other than the random person, like, on social media who will, not me specifically, but as a group, you'll get those sorts of comments. A lot of it comes from the Orthodox Christian side of things.
That's who I was referring to entirely for the listeners.
For the comments that you'll get from the Orthodox Greeks, it's either benign, where it's like, oh, they're cosplayers, or at worst, it's like, oh, it's a Masonic conspiracy.
Why would it be a Masonic?
Because in Greece, everything's the Masons. That's the way they it's like in America, we talk about the Illuminati.
They drink blood. They're vampires.
Yeah. But like in America, when we talk about conspiracies, the Illuminati is like the culprit.
In Greece, it's the Masons, for sure.
In Greece, it's the Masons. So
Without
for context for the audience, in Greece, when people want to try to show that it's a conspiracy of some kind, they use the Masons.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a good saying in Greek that the Mason, like if you want to say, oh, someone's a Mason, you say, oh, he's a Mason, he drinks blood, that's what they'd say about.
Don't you drink blood every Sunday at church?
Yeah. I do. Now you mentioned it, maybe I'm a Mason. No, I'm joking.
No. Huh? Oh.
Yeah, I know. No,
but yeah, so those are the comments that you probably will get.
Almost what I get from it too as well is that I could see some Greeks being like this, is like, what do you think? You're more Greek than me? You know what I mean? Like you're more closer in tune with from ancient Greek than me, which again is ironic that a lot of those people that would be insecure about this are the people that are on, I'd say, the fringes. I mean, not to point any names, but there are these people on Instagram and they're trying to, up and coming and whatnot. And, what they're essentially vying for is a theocracy through and through, not even what's in the layer, the nuanced level of theocracy we have in Greece right now, but like an actual theocracy.
Be a little more specific. Who I'm
referring to, or what?
Or just rephrase this a little bit?
Yeah, I'm saying it's ironic that people that would give you this, perhaps, that I believe would give you this criticism that you're cosplaying or you're not being authentic or whatever, are the people that come from, the fringes, the, extreme religious, that
Oh, okay.
being right from that end, right? It's
Hmm.
ironic that there's that, but these people don't really connect themselves anyways with religiously anyways at all with ancient Greece, right? Except when they want to, when it's convenient for them and whatnot, obviously.
The way they connect with it, and they want to
Right.
use.
And that they're
Yeah.
saying that, they almost, perhaps they feel offended that, what do you think? You're more ancient Greek. You're more connected, authentic Greek than me
Me.
because you're a polytheist.
Yeah, and that is interesting because I think they have some justification to have that feeling because I think some of the polytheist Greeks in Greece have that history of rhetoric of we are more Greek because we're rejecting the quote, I'm using air quotes for the listeners, the foreign religion of Christianity. There's
Right. That's the thing. And that's where
there's
the
that.
nationalist thing comes
Yeah,
in,
there's
right?
there's that level and there's that perspective of the conversation. And I think I did latch onto that in the beginning, but like I let go of that a few years after realizing that that's dumb.
Yeah. And it
There's-
also is the same, just the same thing as those ultra religious, the kind of, it's a similar flavor or just a different flavor, but same
yeah,
concept.
exactly. Yeah. So
Almost
you'll find.
supremacy almost type of thing,
Hmm.
or,
Yeah. So you'll find Greeks who believe that they're more in touch or more Greek in this way because they are engaging in this particular religion. And they will you know cut out the Byzantine period and stuff like that completely and be like, oh, those are the Romans, we're not Romans, we're the Greeks. If you're
right.
Orthodox Greek, you're a Roman.
Cannot be a Greek and a Roman and a Byzantine.
It's
And
just, can we not fight?
yeah, I know.
Can we not do
Can we
that?
agree that these things can all be, it's like
They
some
all can
people,
coexist.
yeah, it's like people have never been introduced to the term of mutual exclusivity, and, that some things are not mutually exclusive and other things are, and whatever
Yeah,
the
and
case, right?
it's and one particular person I've had arguments over this about, and he's like, I'm not Roman. I'm like, but your parents, your parents are Romans, and but you're Greek. How do you become a Greek out of Roman parents? You're basically throwing your family out under the bus historically. It's like this is, it's just dumb rhetoric and narratives, and it's just, I don't know what to say. It's dumb.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, it is dumb, but it's tough too. Cause, like, for example, I literally just got snippy on Instagram with some guy, and you've heard the thing. It's from history of. We're going down another rabbit hole, but I don't, you familiar with the podcast History of Byzantium? Just like it
Yeah.
sounds, History of Byzantium. Anthony Caldelis was on there, and I
Yeah.
think it was from a book of his where he talks about the famous thing that's been making the rounds on social media about when they liberated, I think, the island of Lemnos during the Balkan Wars. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And they went to a kid and they said, "You said Hellene, so you Greek." He said, "Oh, Hime, Romeos, I'm
Yeah.
Roman."
Yeah,
And
I
everyone,
heard this story from the historian. The historian who talks about this is Agilos uh, Chanotis, I think. He writes about this in his book about that
Caldelis
story.
cited it from that story.
Yeah,
Got
and
it.
he talks about when the Greek navy landed on the island, and the children
Yeah,
came to
the
see
children
them,
came,
and the
exactly.
Greek the Greek soldier goes, "What are you looking at?" And the kid said, "Greeks," or no, I
Yeah,
forget the
yeah.
story, but long story
Helenas,
short,
yeah.
yeah, and then the kids
The
are like,
kid
"Who
said,
are
"What are
you?"
you?" Yeah, the
And then
soldier
the
said,
kids
"What
are,
are you?" And he said,
yeah,
"I'm
and the
Roman."
soldier, exactly. Oh, my
Yeah, yeah.
dog is getting upset. Can we
No,
take
no,
a
it's all right.
pause
Yeah,
real
yeah.
quick? Let's just do a quick pause. Hold on.
Yeah. My dog's barking too.
Okay.
Yeah, so back to that, what do you call it? That one with the Lemnos, Rome, Hellenes, Romans, Greeks, and whatnot. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's difficult. I mean, I definitely get triggered by it. Like, I'm have no problem sharing my feelings. Right? It's
Mhm.
2025. I can share my feelings now as a man, which I like. I
Yes.
like. I really do like that. It means a lot. So, like, I definitely get triggered by it because I do feel very much, you know, part of, the part of that continuity from ancient, Greek civilization. I also feel, from medieval Greek, yada yada yada. I feel there's 2,000 years plus of history and ancestry behind me and my, my daily suffering in this life and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's what helps me get by sometimes, often,
Yeah.
the understanding. I think that's part of being religion and being part of having that cultural, understanding of yourself and whatnot. So when one says something like, I'm not a Hellene, I'm not a Hellene, that I'm Greek or I'm a Roman and I'm not a Hellene, then yeah, I do get a little pissed. But I just don't think those things are mutually exclusive. Yes, I feel like I am Roman. Yes, I feel like I am a Hellene. Yes, Imelinaras. Yes,
Yeah.
I am all those things and more. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
one doesn't necessarily define the other.
we are the outcome of centuries of history.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we
absolutely. It's
we
expected.
yeah, it's like this. It's that's like I said, children of empires.
Mm-hmm.
We are raised, in families and speak a language that is thousands of years old. We're part of that linguistic like community, and that's one of my favorite things about the book by what's his name, Roderick or
Roderick
the
Beaton.
Greeks.
Yeah,
He wrote a book, the Greeks, and
yeah.
he gets around all of this messiness of like how we're going to define Greeks, and he's just like everyone and anyone who spoke was part of that, like speaking that language,
Right, the Greek-speaking world.
the Greek speaking world, like
And
the
participated
independent
in
people.
Hellenism, maybe you could even
Yeah,
say
the
as
people who
well.
spoke this language, and these are the Greeks for my purposes. And it's like, yeah, this is we're part of this linguistic tradition and the literature and the culture that comes with it, and it's it's a great gift, I think, and we get to, like I said before, we should be engaging and playing with it in creative ways. I think that Greeks tend to get a little static with the history, and it's like either you want to meme it or it becomes something that's not really engaged with in a playful, fun, new way to create something new out of it.
Yeah, I mean it's very memeable in
You
its
know,
defense.
or like look at us in the diaspora. Like, how do we engage with antiquity? We'll design our diners to be like with column temples or something, or like
True.
you know what I mean. Like, how do we use the symbols of antiquity in a way we use it usually typically when facing the outside world. This is a way for people to you
Prove our
know
Greekness.
not even prove the Greekness, but like this is the two sides of Greek identity, is that to the outside world we will show them the ancient
Yeah.
symbols and imagery because that's what's appealing to them. It's
Right.
what they want and
Which
what's
is changing recently, which is interesting now
yeah,
with right,
it's
the
what's
Roman Empire, all that.
consumable. It's what's
Right.
consumable for the like if here in America, that's what's consumable. When who's going to make a diner and it's going to try to
Be
resemble this
Byzantine themed.
Byzantine
Right.
architecture? People are going to be like, what is this?
Right.
That it's not
True.
that's so that's
True.
internal and private to Greeks. That world, that's like
True.
the so there's the two sides of Greek identity.
True. That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah,
Honestly,
it
it's real
is.
and private. You know. Um. So last thing I guess I really want to talk to you about is it's not often that we get a bona fide polytheist on the pod. What have been your interactions with other Greeks when you tell them you're polytheist, when they find out you're this, and Greeks, I use that in a broad term, the Greek Diaspora. You can include Greeks in Greece as well, and whoever
Mhm.
else you want in between. I mean, has it been something welcoming? Has it been negative? Has it been what? How would you describe it?
Yeah, so it's always interesting how to go about doing those sorts of conversations. So I remember I've
Good
done it
point.
at
It's an
work.
awkward conversation to start
It gets
with.
a little awkward. Like, so how am I going to explain this to somebody? So typically, a lots of times, I remember. So like for an academic, they've asked me that question. Oh, if you don't want to be referred to as a pagan, what do you want to be referred as? I just say, just call me Greek. I'm a Greek. If you need, like I said before, if you need clarification, I'll let you know what kind.
Right.
But I'm not going to. I don't really need to adopt like a big label to distinguish myself in that way. I don't want to create further division within that identity,
Right.
because when you create those divisions, you create polemics. So I want to try to avoid polemics as much as possible on that front. I remember once at work, there was a Greek woman at work, and we would talk, and it was around Easter time. So she's like, "Oh, Kalo Pascha or whatever, like Happy Easter," and I'm just like, "Oh, my thank you, but I don't follow the religion. I'm not Christian. I'll do things like that," and
Right.
then they
Right.
kind of like, "Oh, like, well, what?" Like they will be interested because like they're meeting another Greek, and you're not Christian. What are you?
Right.
And I'll just say, I might leave it at that. And then I remember this particular story we're talking, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not Christian. I don't follow religion." And we're talking. She goes, "Oh, okay." And then she's like, "Okay, Kalopaska." Like as she's leaving, she said it again. And I'm like, "You're totally not listening."
No, they don't. It probably didn't even register for
It
that
probably didn't even
person.
register. Like, "Oh, not
Yeah,
Christian." Oh,
I don't
and she
think.
goes over
Yeah,
her head.
yeah.
Okay.
Let me.
um,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to ask you
Yeah, and
something.
and then lots of times they'll get more polemical. So I do have a side of the family that is very Orthodox,
Uh huh.
and so it'll get polemic that way. Where I have a cousin who's like, well, Jesus really lived, and this is this is history, and like they try to go this historical route of like, my God is real, your gods are not real,
Right. Right.
that sort of thing. So it becomes very
What do you have to say
dismissive.
about that? Because that is seems like the biggest like conversation, not even a counter conversation, but just a counterpoint to.
Yeah, and this is an important part of the conversation. Is like why worship the gods? What's to it that why not just be Orthodox and just go with it? And and I think the distinguishing thing there is that I find what I'm doing to be rational, because we talk about like religion's supposed to be irrational, or it's like things you can't prove. But what I like about our tradition, the Hellenic tradition, in regards to philosophy and theology and these sorts of things, particularly if you go to Proclus, he has propositions and he goes through logical,
Who's
if that.
Proclus? I'm
He's
sorry.
one of the Platonic philosophers,
Okay.
and so he's a systematizer, and he has a very good structure to his theology, where it goes like propositions. If this, he starts with the like first principle and then builds down, argumentations. And so our the way I engage with the religion, like worshiping gods, is that the way I frame it is, if there is divinity, if there is such a thing as the divine,
Hmm.
how should it ought to be? Like, what is the are we going to logically deal with that? Because again, we can't prove it. I
Oh,
can't scientifically test these things,
if
but
it's divine anyways, why are you using citing historical facts, kind of, as a
like, so if there is
means
a
of?
divinity, if I'm going to, because I could live my life as an atheist, meaning that I'm not either not going to believe in a god, or in the ancient sense of atheism, that the gods are there but they don't care about me, so I'm not going to care about them. That's like more of
Right.
an ancient position. You live a life without the gods, so you don't
Hmm.
deny their existence. You just live a life without them, which means not engaging in the public civic, religious life of the community. That would have been a more ancient understanding of atheism. So I
Hmm.
could live a life where, I don't go to church. I could live a life where I don't pray. I could live a life without divinity. But I'm so inclined in my orientation to the world that I think that I should have a life with a divinity in it. And if that's the case, how should I go about doing that in a reasonable, appropriate, rational way? And, so in Platonism, divinity is good. So like there's these propositions. The gods are, I don't want to go into the whole theology, because it's a little complicated, and I don't remember off the top of my head all the details, but and a lot of these things influence Christianity too. So if you read like Christian, like the Orthodox theology and the patristics and stuff like that, these are people who were educated in the Hellenic Paedia. They would study Platonism. So a lot of these things trickle into Orthodoxy. So these things will be very familiar to Orthodox
Hmm.
people. But if you look at Greek philosophy, there's certain propositions that they have when it comes to divinity, um, and in that sense, that this is a religion and an orientation towards spirituality and life that is deducted through reason, and it's the best thing you can do as a human. At like
Mm,
this is the best. This is how I'm going to live my life and engage with divinity because I have reasoned this so. And if it's wrong, it's wrong. I can't prove it. But based on logical, my capabilities of reason, and reason is a divine function, logos.
right.
I'm using my logos, which is, something from divinity. I'm going to reason through how should I conduct myself. Am I going to be superstitious? Like to use another term from the ancient world, a superstitious person who is excessively fearful of the gods, for example. And so the superstitious person will, bathe and cleanse themselves extensively to purify themselves because they're worried they have miasma. They have some sort of whatever. And it's
Bad
like,
juju.
is
Yeah.
that appropriate for me to be doing, or is there a better, more appropriate way to conduct myself that is reasonable? Does this make
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I mean, it's
I
making sense. It's hard. It's a little hard to grasp, but I do
it's
get the
it's hard
gist of it.
it's hard to grasp, but
Oh, you got it?
yeah. So it's Proclus's Elements of Theology, and he has his propositions. Proposition 1. So he starts at the beginning. All multitude participates in a certain respect of the one. That's where he starts with.
That's for monotheism at least.
No, this what?
Wouldn't that apply to monotheism for the one, or is it just a
Well, the
general
one. So
sense
now
of
that this is the
one?
thing with the one. So the one in Platonism is the source of unity. I'm trying to remember what it is, but the one is the good, the all. It's not a god. Now here's the thing. So the Christians, what
Oh,
they did was
interesting.
they Christianized the one. The one is not a god. The one is beyond being. It's not a thing because it's the most simplest. It has to be simple. It's unity itself. If I'm
A shared
I'm
reality or
not the
shared
best
existence.
Platonist. I'm not the best
Okay.
Platonist. I'm going to be ripped apart by probably some Platonists, but there's other people who write about it better. But the one. But what the one
Hmm.
isn't a god. It's not personable. You don't pray to the one. This is standard. This I will
Hmm.
say that people can
Okay.
walk away with. You don't pray to the one. The one isn't something that a response to you. The Christians Christianized the one and merged it with Yahweh and all that, and because they wanted something personable, I guess, and
Hmm.
they conflated the two. But the one isn't God. But this is part of the philosophy. So all multitude participates in a certain respect of the one. And then he has a little exegesis, and then he goes into proposition 2. Everything which participates of the one is both one and not one. Everything.
Oh my
Proposition
gosh.
3. Everything which becomes one becomes so through the participation of the one, and is one so far as it suffers the participation of the one. There's so many propositions, and it goes down, but this is where it starts with. It starts with first principles, like this thing. Everything of the multitude participates in the one. So everything you see in the world around you, everything is participating in that one. So we're creating that connection, and then through this, eventually you get down to things about the gods. It's how you go about these things from a philosophical, uh, deductive like point of view.
I don't think I could digest
It
this stuff sober.
it and I'm
It's
honestly
very
not the best person to talk about.
no. It's not you. It's just me. I'm just
It's
totally
but this is for the audience sake that when we're
yeah.
talking about religion, we're not doing apples to apples necessarily with, oh, I have
Right.
faith and I just believe gods are there and they're listening to me and they're going to intercede on me and I can't prove it
Right.
or whatever. There is a philosophical reason for this because of things like this, like Proclus. When you read
Right.
through Proclus and you see that there is a rationale behind this, and there is a structure. It's not just a faith. It is a structured, rational a means to engage with divinity in a meaningful way that is has a philosophy behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally get it. I'm just like
I
50%.
Yeah, but that's something, for further
No,
exploration.
I appreciate it a
Yeah.
lot. I wish I could, you are much more educated in
But
in
then
this
with the
sphere
gods
than,
themselves, so the gods,
yeah.
are the most like simple. They're beyond being in this system. They're beyond being. They're not beings because beings are made up of things. They're composites.
Right.
And gods can't be in this way of thinking. They can't be composites. They can't be components put together because that means then they're um, um, capable of change and mutability. And for Platonism, divinity is good, unchanging, and that means unchanging. They're not changed. They don't have moods or personalities. You can't bribe them with gifts. This whole thing of like, oh, offerings. Why do we give offerings? Oh, you're trying to get something out of the gods. Gods aren't genies. They don't grant wishes. We don't give. I don't pour out my wine libation in order to bribe the gods. It's a way of giving thanks. It's a way of giving something to show my gratitude.
I mean, I'm sure there are people that believe that, though, right?
There are people who believe that. I would say that's a more literalist or Homeric way of thinking of things. And this goes into like my polemics with, again, the broader pagan community. So like the way I say I'm not a pagan because particularly there are people out there who do call themselves pagan.
Right.
And these are the non-Greeks at large across the world, in America, wherever, who want to worship the Greek gods. And that is perfectly fine. Again, more polemics. People say, "Oh, you're Greek." When I walk or walk in, or when I enter one of these online communities or whatever, and they find out that I'm Greek and I'm a polytheist, one of the first questions is, "Do you think only Greeks can worship the Greek gods?"
Right.
That's
What
like
is the
the
answer? What do you think about? What is the answer to that?
anyone can worship the Greek gods. That's been my response for years. Like anyone can worship the Greek gods. But the thing is, there's certain things that are appropriation that are harmful to Greeks, which is what are you doing, which is appropriating identity, and the way that they're doing this. This is something we should have started with, is that
I know.
Hellenismos, they are appropriating. I think we talked about this in our last
We talked
podcast.
about this in our last
Yeah, they're
episode quite
appropriating
a
they're
bit.
appropriating Hellenism as a religion,
Right. Which
and
is, of course, bad shit and not,
it's not like open any Greek dictionary,
it's not
and
religion.
it's not in our language, like particularly in Hellenismos does not mean a religion.
Yeah,
And when
certainly
they
not. I mean,
but they
not
try
even,
to use ancient history to show that it's just it's poor understanding, and the fact that they want an identity for themselves because
right.
everything has to have a label,
This is
and
what
this
everyone's seeking for in America, though, because having an identity crisis of sorts, you
yeah.
could say,
So just to be short on this is that anyone can worship the gods, but what do you call your religion matters because depending on how you're going to call it will then determine if you're appropriating and harming my identity. As
Right,
a
certainly.
Greek American, are you harming my identity? Because, and for the Greek audience that's listening, go Google or like do a YouTube search, whatever social media platform you are on, go on TikTok, go on YouTube, go on whatever, search Hellenism, and you will see that the content that comes up is nothing to do with Hellenism. It's
Jeez.
90% the pagans, and you'll find videos such as how to pray in Hellenism, Hellenism 101. And it's just like, or you go onto Reddit, there's a Reddit, Hellenism Reddit. People be like,
Yeah, that's terrible. Oh
I'm
my
new to
gosh.
Hellenism. They'll say things like, I'm new to Hellenism. Can you help me with this? How did you find Hellenism? Like
Yeah.
this is the appropriation of the word and the framing and how it's being used. And as a Greek, it's jarring because it's like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about?
I mean, you'll
Like
go on there, it'll make you sick almost. It's really terrible.
it's but the thing is, when Greeks see this, they might not know how to properly respond, and that just feeds into the preconceived notions that these pagans have of the Greeks are these ultra nationalists and they don't want us engaging with their gods. And it's like, no, we
Yeah,
don't want we don't want you appropriating the
we
word
don't
that
want you engaging with their gods.
no, it's like we don't want you appropriating the one word that describes us in our totality as a
Yeah,
people.
exactly. We don't want you engaging with their thousands of years of cultural and,
Not
achievements and everything
no,
else and
no, it's the
history and
identity.
everything.
It's just the no, it's the identity because it's not about the engaging in the history. Like everyone's engaging with the history. Everyone's like,
Right,
people
true,
are
true, true.
inspired. It's there. We're all being inspired by it. It's
They're
I mean,
changing. They're trying to.
they're creating a alternative polemical identity using our word. So when they say I'm new to Hellenism, and they try to create things called like the tenets of Hellenism, like beliefs or practices, or they're inserting into this term things that aren't
Part.
originating. It isn't
Yeah,
part of the meaning,
right.
and
They're not
so
part of that term because Hellenism doesn't mean that in the
it
first
doesn't
place.
mean that.
Yeah.
Hellenismos, is the first of all, the history of the term is proper use of the Greek language. That is the first definition
Right.
from
Which
antiquity.
in ancient times, my understanding was the number one identifier of a Greek for the most part. That and the
It was
worship of the gods.
exactly, yeah. They didn't. There wasn't a label for your religion back then.
Right.
So that was the first meaning. The Hellenismos originated to denote the proper use of Greek, free of any flaws or mistakes. Yeah. So if you wrote,
The irony, huh, for the Greek
yeah.
diaspora.
Yeah. So that was the original meaning. So if you could, write in perfect Greek without, a grammatical error, that was a mark of Hellenismos. And it later expands. But like
The
for us
march of
today,
civilization and
civilization.
culture
So for
in
so for
contrast
us
to the barbarians.
for us today, Hellenismos is, the people in its totality in Greece and the diaspora. That's the important thing too. It's the diaspora that's part of the term Hellenismos. And then
Hmm.
other things as well, like the civilization and us as
Right.
like the actual Greek definition will say one of the definitions will say and Greeks as bearers of that civilization.
Right. That's a big thing. Pas
Yeah.
mi
So
elin varvaros. I don't know if you ever heard that.
I don't think so.
Pas mi elin varvaros. All but Hellenes are barbarians. You know. I
Oh,
forgot who said it, but
uh,
it's an ancient Greek thing. But it goes
yeah,
back to contrasting, Greek and
yeah,
civilization
and
against
and
barbarians.
and that leads into what my interview will be later with on white nationalists. They've used like what Western history has used that dichotomy to promote and support and justify all sorts of horrible things.
Right.
The Greek division between Greeks and barbarians. The Greeks were racialized by or are racialized by like white nationalists as a white people,
But
and
they're not
therefore,
Greek. But they're not.
but
That's
this is the
so
thing though. The
silly.
Greeks, the Greeks stopped really. This Greeks stopped being Greek for these white nationalists. They become
Right.
like proto-Europeans. Like they're like
True.
before there's a Europe or there's the Europeans, there's the Greeks, and the Greeks are white in
Right. Their
the way they look at
Aryan probably
history.
is even the way they use
Exactly.
it.
And so
It's
if the
terrifying.
Greeks are white to them, and in this sense, and how they're defining them against the other, the white nationalists are using that to justify look at society today,
Yeah.
what they're doing.
Xenophobia,
Xenophobia,
racism.
racism. They want to build a white nationalist country here in
Right.
America. They want a white nationalist country, and they believe that they're justified in doing this because well, look at the Greeks. They're the pinnacle of like
Right.
of the white
Civilization.
civilization, and
Right. Right.
so they use these things as justification, and I absolutely I hate it. I
Of
really
course.
fucking hate it.
Yeah. Who wants your culture associated with that?
Exactly. It's like go away.
Jeez.
I'm just
Yeah.
like go away.
Go appropriate Nordic culture. That worked fine for you guys the first time. Joking,
Yeah,
of
so
course, it didn't work fine, but you
this is
get my
something
point.
I'm going to be dealing with on my podcast soon. I'm really
That's going
excited.
to be a good episode.
It's going to be a good one. It's just such a difficult conversation. I hope I do it
All this
justice.
stuff, though, is super difficult.
It is. It's not
E-conversation,
easy. It's
this
not
is
easy.
extremely difficult, and there's a
Yeah,
reason that people
but
go on about this.
this does tie into what I was saying about with the pagans. You know,
Hmm.
these ideas of what the ancient Greek world is or was, gets trickled down throughout history and narratives. And so, why wouldn't these pagans say, well, Hellenism can be my religion? I can use that word because look at the history. And then, like, there's selective memory and selective use of terms in the way they think of, well, this can be mine. What does somebody who's not Greek, why would they think, oh, I can't use the term Hellenism? I'm not appropriating because again, they have racialized the ancient Greeks as white, and so it's mine. Then they think I can use it by that logic.
Why are they appropriating then? And I mean, going off of that, down that, why
They're
is it problematic?
because they're turning a label, a word that signifies and identifies the Greeks. So for us, it's a term that's still used. It's not like it's a dead word.
Right,
We use it today. It's what we use to identify the diaspora.
right.
Like the
Absolutely.
Hellenism in America. So if you do like
Absolutely.
our own academic research and studies and stuff like that, if you want to talk about Hellenism in America, you're talking about the Greek diaspora in America, and it's regardless of religion. Yeah, Orthodoxy will be the dominant marker in that community, but you're talking about a group of people. You're not talking about pagans in Arkansas
Yeah,
who are
100%.
worshiping Zeus. That's not
Right,
Hellenism. But so that you're appropriating the thing that identifies
right.
me,
It's the
and then
appropriation.
it's the appropriation of identity. And
Yeah,
so, and if they're allowed to do that, then you have a conflicting polemical identity that's existing against ours.
yeah.
And
Which
then
is
now,
crazy because we're the ones that, the
yeah,
originators, you could say.
it's a word that's supposed to identify us as a
Th-
people.
They're like usurpers almost, culturally.
It's cultural appropriation, but they just don't understand the history.
Yeah,
It's a lack of bad historical understanding and the repeating and recycling of old narratives and things that keeps this going. And they will, at every turn they can, shut out Greek people from the conversations because we ruin their fun.
right.
We
In a
ruin we
nutshell.
ruin the fun because they think of, now this goes into conversations about like American religious life in America, the kind of Christianity that is here.
Hmm.
For a lot of people it leaves them dissatisfied and they go looking for something else and they go find polytheism and
Or
they find the
orthodoxy now that's on the rise,
and orthodoxy is on the rise, but a lot
Russian
of them
more
will
so,
go to
but
this, they want to become polytheists, and they think
right,
that, and they want a word to use to identify their religion, and they take Hellenism because this is the word that comes up in historical writings,
right.
but they don't understand that it's not a religion itself. It's been, and another figure that they use is Julian, the Emperor Julian, who was the last polytheistic
Well, Julian the
emperor.
apostate.
Yeah, or the philosopher. The
Okay,
apostate is again a polemical title given by the Christians.
got it.
Always
Got it.
the
Got
Christians
it.
defining things.
Okay.
But he they use him to be like, oh, he's using Hellenism as a religion. It's like, no, he's not. Nothing back then was just a religion. Everything was intertwined as a civilizational modality.
Right. Right.
Education,
Right.
language, philosophy, culture, and the
It's the end all
religion were
be
part of
all
it.
of
Yeah,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
they're basically saying we're just going to use that term as a religion and then cut everything else out, and everything after antiquity we don't care about. So who cares if you're using the term Hellenism? We can both share it. I've heard that argument. There just doesn't have to be one Hellenism. There could be many. We can share the term.
Right.
It's like,
It's not. Yeah. They're not
no.
getting them. They're not understanding. Yeah.
No, because they want. And another thing is that in this day and age with influencers, content creation, monetization, a lot of people want to be able to create content and sell content and become
Yes. And this
famous,
is good, sensational,
and it
interesting
gives them a
niche.
term
Yeah.
to use. It's a term that they can use that has historical weight to it. It is a real
Right.
term. and they can use it. It's easy to
It pulls a
search.
lot of traction. Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
it's easy to
Absolutely.
search when you're marketing a book. It's a term that it's something that will pop up in the algorithms. It's just
Right.
it's marketable, and this is why I get really upset is because
Social
you're
media, man.
yeah, it's all because of social media. It's that's why I tell people if you go onto social media and search Hellenism and see what comes up, is your history being reflected or is it not? In large part, it won't. I remember I did this last night on YouTube. I searched Hellenism. I had to scroll so far down to get something that was remotely like related to like it was the TED Talk. It was there was a TED Talk from Greece, and it was about the wisdom of Hellenism for thousands of years. It was this thing, and I'm like, I had to
Right.
scroll all the way down to get to a TED Talk that had hundreds of thousands of views. I think it was that was from a Greek scholar or whatever, a Greek speaker at a TED Talk giving a lecture on our history from her point of view
That's
someone
shameful.
as someone part of that culture. But that you have to scroll so far down to get that. But what comes up to the top? Pagans making pagan content about how to pray to the gods, and that's
That's shameful.
Hellenism.
As I mean, that's so offensive to Hellenes, to
Because
us.
it is because if you want to learn about your history, you have to filter out all this other noise.
Right.
And I don't think other people have to do the same filtering.
No. No. I mean, maybe, but it's very frustrating.
Maybe
It's very
it's
upsetting.
frustrating. It is
Yeah,
frustrating.
it's very upsetting. I don't like that our culture is being hijacked for,
The
ulterior motives.
label in particular, I'm fully supportive of people worshiping the gods. You just need to be a little bit creative with your terminology. Call yourself, I created the term Hellenisticism for people. I
Okay,
was like,
yeah.
so you have the Hellenistic period. So that, I'm like, well, instead of saying Hellenism, why don't you use Hellenisticism? Because I think
Right.
it provides a historical grounding for people. It provides a framework. It's a it's a drama-free label because we don't Hellenistic for us isn't
Yeah.
something integral to identity. It's
Yeah,
not
it's
like
not
I'm Hellenistic.
Hellenismo, which
Yeah,
has it's already such a well established.
yes, so that is that I think it doesn't infringe upon identity.
Right.
It's a perfectly neutral term, and people can do what they're doing and not really change what they're doing, just adopt a new label that doesn't come into conflict with my identity.
Well, isn't that the
That's
annoying
all
thing
I'm
about it
asking.
all?
Huh?
Yeah, exactly. That's all we're asking. I said that's the most annoying thing about it all is you're not
Yeah, and
asking
a lot
for
of people are
much.
coming around and being like, "Oh, I get it." Like they're getting it because you
Right.
have to sit down and try to talk to people and get you need to get into their head a little bit to see like what's your understanding of history? What is your understanding of these words? And what do you like? And just try to like find a solution that is like a proper solution to this that is where everyone is happy and people can feel good about what they're doing so that I don't like again I never want people to feel like oh they're doing something wrong by worshiping the gods. That's perfectly fine. It's just that you don't do that the mistake of then using words and labels that are infringing on people's actual lived existence and identities
Right.
because nothing they'll say is I'm a Hellenic pagan. They'll say that Hellenic pagan. I don't like that because Hellenic it refers to Greeks.
Right.
It's tied to again our identity, and then a lots of times they'll shorthand it and they'll just say I'm a Hellenic.
Yeah. I mean, come
And so it's
on.
just like what? And it's like, do you not know we exist?
Right.
And they think Hellenic is different from Greek, Hellene. They think these terms
Yeah.
are
Well, we've
it's
talked about that. That's the whole
yeah
nother kind of
yeah yeah.
bullshit
So I think well
thing.
we can
Whatever.
let that go. But yeah, all
That's a whole nother episode. That's a whole nother episode. The Hellenic Greek, which is funny because I mean, the way I understand, Greek is pretty much the term that was adopted when the Latins first encountered Greeks in southern Italy.
yeah, it was the tribe
That's it.
it was the tribe they
That's
encountered. Yeah
Yeah, that's it. I mean,
yeah
people try to make some kind of like distinction between
no.
ancient Greece and modern Greeks, but it's like the term Greek originated from ancient times, just from a
Yeah,
different
yeah.
region,
It was a
which
particular tribe.
totally
Yeah.
counters any of that bullshit as, oh, is he a Greek or a Hellene? And Greeks are somehow like bastardized versions of Hellenes or something like that, which is fucking
Yeah.
ridiculous. I say, forget about it. I think,
It's always fun on the internet.
yeah, to say the least, to say the least. Well, I think that's good on that note.
But
Thanks so
yeah,
much
yeah,
for showing up again. We'll have to do this again. We'll find something else to talk about. But
definitely. Thank you for having me on, and I hope that this conversation sparks everyone's interest to kind of just research ancient religion. I'll just leave it off that on this particular note that there's a lot of things that are misrepresented when it comes to like ancient religion, and there's a lot of other scholars and people out there doing a lot of good work to reevaluate these things and present it to a wider audience. And it's a fascinating topic. And yeah,
plug
I
your
hope people.
show if
Oh
it's a
yeah,
fascinating time.
oh yeah. So yeah, if
Angelo
you
has a
want,
really great
I
podcast as well.
I have a podcast, Hearth of Hellenism. I do interviews talking about history with scholars. So we've done. I have a particular episode that might be it ties into what we talked about here, which is Christianization and late antiquity. So there's that episode I have there. People want to go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, if you're at all interested in these kinds of conversations, you would
And I write a little bit too. Yeah.
yeah, a good writer as well. A lot of real good pieces as well. Yeah, if any of this stuff at all even slightly interests you, you'd like Hearth of Hellenism a lot. Honestly, it's a lot of really good stuff and whatnot. So,
Thank you, and
well,
I appreciate all the work that you're doing on your end of the.
we're
With this,
trying. You know how it is. It's a
yeah.
it's a never ending work. But yeah, we're gonna keep pushing on. We're gonna keep having these conversations on the side in addition to the historical segments we run. And I again appreciate a lot, Angelo. Take care, buddy. All right.
You too. Take care.
Yeah.